Last night, Michael, one of the greatest Champions League matches ever.
Damn right it was. I mean,
did you watch it?
No. Champions League.
Well,
you mean Porto versus Liverpool?
No.
That's. I just typed in Champions League. I'll tell you what happened last night, Luke. If you really want to know, Barcelona played Man United.
That was 2 nights ago, but whatever.
Man City played Tottenham.
Yes.
And Man City beat. Why was that so good? What was good about
score.
It? Oh, it was 4-3.
Yeah, 4-3.
I guess
what a fucking game.
Yeah, I guess that's a lot of goals. But we're not American or anything, so.
No, well, I know we're not. But goals are generally exciting. I will say that. A game with goals is often better than a game with not any goals. But yeah, so basically, what happened though, as you can see on aggregate,
they kept switching place.
Yeah, on aggregate it was 4-4 at the end, which means Tottenham went through on away goals because they have this rule where whoever scores the most away goals, if the aggregate score is tied, they go through. But Man City scored in the 92nd minute to make it 5-3, and so they were going through. But then the goal got ruled out because Aguero was offside, and it was hilarious, and it was wonderful. So yeah, there's just one of the greatest matches I've ever seen, and I'll never forget it. And you should have seen it because football is exciting.
Yeah, well, sometimes I just decide not to because I don't care about the teams playing. Because after all, I can't really feel happy about. I mean, here's the thing: because you support Man United, so for you, Man City not going through is a very good thing.
It is very good.
Whereas I support Arsenal, so for me, I'm not happy about this. The thing is, I wouldn't. Yeah, I know, but now I'm not happy. But I wouldn't have been. The thing is, I don't think either way I would have been happy. That's the problem because Man City, just everyone hates them, and I like to go along with the flow. And Tottenham, I personally have to hate them just for my own particular reasons.
Tottenham are a bigger club than Arsenal now. That is the question. Better stadium, better team, Champions League semi-finals. Questions have to be asked.
I remember back when Tottenham had never finished above Arsenal in a Premier League
season. Now they're comfortably ahead of you guys, so yeah, it's quite embarrassing for Arsenal.
Yeah, well, whatever. Who cares? Because at the end of the day, both players had, all 22 players have fun, and that's what football's about. It's not about who wins or loses.
That's what it's all about. Beautiful game.
Yeah, and for that reason, I'm very happy that Tottenham won because they presumably played some very good football.
Back up, chump, Biggie Smalls rips it quick and kicks it quick. You know how black niggas get with the hood fatigues, with the boots with trees. Flipping trees, making crazy G's. Hitting buckshots at niggas that open spots on the avenue. Take my loot and I'm bagging. Pimping hoes that drive Volvos and rodeos. Flash the roll, make a wreck in they pantyhose. Damn, a nigga style is unorthodox. Grip the clock when I walk down the crowded block. Just in case a nigga wanna act out, I just black out and blow their motherfucking back out. That's a real nigga for you.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out relatively recently at the cinema and see if they still hold up upon a second watch. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating the release of Marvel's The Avengers Endgame by looking at the obvious choice, Shrek 2. No, Avengers Infinity War. And Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Avengers Infinity War?
Sure thing, Michael. So Avengers Infinity War is a 2018 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics superhero team, The Avengers. It is a sequel to 2012's The Avengers and 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron, and is the 19th film in the Marvel cinematic universe. 19 of these. Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Directed by Anthony Russo and Joe Russo. Obviously, it's based on The Avengers by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Produced by Kevin Feige, as always. And here we go, Michael. Here is the starring. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ever since we started doing these, I've been looking forward to this day. So,
yeah, great.
Stars Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Benedict Cumberbatch, Don Cheadle, Tom Holland, Chadwick Boseman, Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Danny Guerra, Letitia Wright, Dave Bautista, Zoe Saldana, Josh Brolin, and Chris Pratt. There we go, and it stars a bunch more people, but they're not important enough to get top billing here on the Wikipedia page. It was released on April the 27th, 2018, and Michael, have a guess at the budget.
$200 million.
No, a lot more.
$300 million.
316 to 400.
Blimey.
So this is
I thought I was guessing high, but
this is a lot of money. This might be the most expensive movie of all time. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very real possibility.
Could very well be. I think wasn't like the Justice League or
the
DC movies very expensive.
Yeah, I can't remember which. I think it was Justice League. It was really expensive. Yeah. But I don't know if that was more or less expensive. I think Justice League just seemed expensive relative to how shit it was. Whereas this it just seems expensive. Full stop. Objectively expensive.
Okay, how much did it make at the box office, Michael?
More than $1 billion. It made $1.4 billion.
No, a lot higher.
1.41 billion. 1.6 billion.
The box office total for this movie was $2 billion and 48 million. Yeah, so this makes it one of the highest grossing MCU movie, beating the Avengers, which came out in 2012. I think the Avengers was like 1.5 billion, and it also is the highest grossing superhero movie of all time as well. And I believe it's fourth all time in terms of all movies. So yeah.
Oh wow.
Massive. It might even be third, actually. I think The Last Jedi, sorry, not The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens and Avatar are ahead of it. And I think that might be it. But yeah, $2 billion at the box office. So yeah, this is just one of the biggest movies we've ever reviewed then.
You could almost say it's infinite.
Yeah, yes, you could. So
but
Michael,
it's a fair bit away from infinite.
How many nitpicks have you got?
I have 4, I think. I have 4.
I have 4 as well.
So what happens now?
We flip a coin.
Okay, I've got a coin. Don't worry, Luke. I have a coin right here. Okay.
Okay.
Here it is. Okay. So it's actually Danish. Dear. So it doesn't have a head on it, but on one side it says krona, and on the other side it says kongeriket Nurek. So I ask you, Luke, krona or kongeriket Nordet? Make your choice.
I'll go with krona because I can say it easily. So we'll go with that.
Okay, well, it fell off, so I'm gonna. Okay. I can tell you, it is in fact kongeriket Norek. So, sorry.
Well, we have no way of knowing that you're telling the truth.
I know, yeah, that's true. But to be honest, so let's see what I have to say. Oh, actually, you know what? This is actually strange. I think I might have 3 because I have no idea what this nitpick is actually in reference to, which is kind of.
What does it say? Just give it.
It says, okay, this is what it says. It says, how could you not shoot Thanos immediately, Peter? Now, that implies very clearly to me that there was a point where Peter should have had the opportunity to shoot Thanos. Oh, I know what it's in reference to. Okay, yeah, I remember exactly. See, you know what it was? Peter threw me off because I was thinking Peter Parker. It's not Peter Parker. Okay, so basically, it's that moment when Gamora is being held by Thanos, and Peter Quill comes out with his gun, pointing it at Thanos, and he's like, let her go. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I know it wouldn't have done anything, but surely you would just, because it's not as if, like sometimes, you need to have a very good aim to shoot somebody while they're taking somebody else hostage. But Thanos is very clearly visible. Like, Peter Quill is undisputedly aiming the gun right at him. And you think to yourself, why would you, especially seeing as he's just seen that Thanos can manipulate reality, and he must therefore know that he is, literally one thought away from being turned into a ton of cubes or whatever, or a squiggly spiral thing. Any sane person would just shoot Thanos immediately. I mean, of course, it probably wouldn't work. It would probably be bubbles. But it doesn't really make sense that he's like, let her go. I'm pointing a gun at you, so you better let her go. Yeah, I remember exactly why I said that. And then, okay, this one's a funny one. So, Tony Stark is like, or so people are like, are we going to go back to Earth? And Tony Stark's like, no, we're not going to go back to Earth because that's what Thanos expects. We're going to take the fight to him. He says, we're going to take the fight to him. Then later on, they're on Titan, and Tony Stark says, he's coming to us. That's an advantage. Which are 2 completely contradictory statements. He's saying, on the one hand, we take this fight to Thanos. That would be the last thing he expects. And then later on, he says, Thanos is coming to us. That's an advantage for us.
No, I don't think it is, because I think maybe he thinks with Earth, like, he wants to be on Thanos' home planet. Like, he wants to be on his territory. He doesn't want to have a fight on Earth. And in the context, it's like he won't be expecting us to show up, like, on Titan.
Yeah, I know, but yes. Okay, so technically speaking, I understand the logic. It is, the two statements are necessarily contradictory, but I get how it can be like, when he said, we would need to take the fight to him, it was basically saying we need to take the fight away from Earth. But still, Luke, they were two contradictory statements, even if there is an explanation for how he could have just been, referring to different things subtextually. But we don't care about subtext, because technically speaking, if you take them literally, he contradicted himself. And isn't that funny?
That is hilarious. Go on.
I'm not necessarily saying it's inexplicable. I'm just saying it's funny that he says two. Okay, and this one's they're fighting zombie things in Wakanda, and they're like, they're going to come around us. So the only way we can stop that is by opening the thing in front of us, so that they all kind of spill through. Which seems like fair enough, but you have to realize that shield is doing a lot. Like, it's doing a huge amount to help them, and undeniably the shield is the MVP. So you would think that surely they would try everything to avoid, opening that shield. And logically speaking, you would have to think that they'd be better off spreading their line very thin, in order to guard all around while having the shield's help, than they would be by getting rid of the shield, which is just killing so many of them with its, epic force fieldness. So basically, I was just thinking to myself, you're taking away your one advantage, and I'm thinking you would try everything before you got rid of that shield, because once that shield's gone, basically, it's just they're being overrun by zombies. Although it's kind of funny actually that the CGI army doesn't really do that much. It's not like they actually get defeated by the army. So I guess in the end, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah.
In the end, it doesn't even matter. Okay, and this one's my favorite one. So it's about Peter Quill again. So first of all, he is just an idiot for punching Thanos when they're just about to get the thing off. And I was thinking to myself, okay, that and this is the interesting fact. So we hear that Doctor Strange looked at, what was it, 14 million something futures?
Yeah, 14,605,000, I think.
Yeah, and there was only one where the Avengers won, which means that because as we know, the way it plays out is that the gang are literally just seemingly seconds away from removing the gauntlet from Thanos, and Peter Quill starts punching him and thus breaking him out of his stupor and wrecking everything. And here's the crazy thing: there was not a single scenario where he didn't do that. We are to believe, because obviously, if he would have done that, then they would have won. Or sorry, if he wouldn't have done that, then they would have won, because they would have got the gauntlet off him. And therefore, obviously, that means that there was no scenario. He didn't say, I saw into the future and I saw two scenarios, one of which is very complicated, and the other one just involves Peter Quill not punching Thanos. So that's pretty embarrassing. But the other thing is, I would think to myself, if you're Doctor Strange, you would, logically, you've looked into the future, you've seen what Peter Quill is going to do and how he's going to wreck things. So you would then say to Peter Quill, by the way, when we're just about to get the gauntlet off Thanos, could you just hold off punching him for like a second? Just hold off punching him. And tell you what, once you've got the gauntlet, you can just beat him up as much as you want. But here's the thing, okay? Apparently, we're to believe that strategy by Doctor Strange wouldn't have worked. Otherwise, he would have done it, because, he can see the future. He didn't bother telling Peter Quill, which means that we know now that Peter Quill is so stupid that even if he was told explicitly by Doctor Strange, hey, I've seen the future, and, this is going to happen, he still would have done it, because if that wouldn't have been the case, then Doctor Strange would have told him. Therefore, Peter Quill is an idiot, and he's fat.
Yeah, that is an issue which I was going to address later.
Yeah, okay,
one of the more disappointing moments.
Yes. But your four
nitpicks. My nitpicks. So this first one, I can't believe you didn't get this one, because it was so obvious to me. Like, Tony Stark's just in the middle of New York City, casually walking with pepper pots, and nobody's bothering him. Perhaps the most famous person on Earth. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe they've kind of got. Maybe they've got the same Marvel fatigue that the rest of the world has.
Maybe, yeah. They're just tired of the
Avengers. I'm so bored of Tony Stark. Tell you what, whenever they see Bucky, they must just want to kill themselves. Imagine living in a world where Bucky exists. Just like every day, it's like, oh, Bucky. Just everywhere.
Bucky, man. Okay, so Tony Stark can apparently just call Steve Rogers, who's Captain America, even after, he's a criminal. After, remember all the stuff he did in Civil War?
Oh, yeah,
and he's a fugitive. Now, apparently, he can be contacted just with a simple phone call.
Yeah, Avengers phones. Magic. Maybe it's Tony Stark's magic phone. Maybe he gave every single Avenger a magic phone, and he said, keep this, and I'll use it to contact you.
Yes. Okay. Why are all? Okay, so this is an Infinity Stone thing, and I hope you, because we're going to talk about them later. I hope you.
I probably don't have it.
Got this. Okay, so why are all the Infinity Stones in one galaxy? So think about it. Billions of galaxies are in the universe. Yeah, all of these Infinity Stones happen to be in the Milky Way in one way or another.
Yeah, that's crazy, actually. I never really thought about that. Like, when you think
Yeah, no, I was just like, because they kept on talking about the universe and how he could wipe out half the life in the universe. I'm like, wait, so all these 6 Infinity Stones are just all in this one galaxy? That seems pretty...
Some bozo on, Alpha Centauri? Is that the nearest galaxy? I think it is.
I think it's Andromeda.
Oh, Andromeda, that's it. I think Alpha Centauri is a planet. Yeah, or sun, yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Some bozo on Andromeda is just going about their day, and literally just people turn to cubes. I'm like, what the hell just happened? Honestly, I never thought, but you think about it, like, that's crazy though, because obviously, they say like there are millions of galaxies within the observable universe, and even the observable universe is like a tiny fraction of the actual universe. So yeah, good point. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I've never heard it be brought up before in all of this. They could have just said like these was formed in the center of our galaxy or something. They didn't have to make it a universe. So I'm just like, wait, the whole universe. Anyway, next we got. Okay, so Stark, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man, they just happen to crash land on Titan in the very same area as Star-Lord, Drax, and that green insert girl. Obviously, they crash land, and then immediately they get attacked by like the Guardians of the Galaxy, which I don't know how big Titan is, but I would suggest the chances of that happening are pretty slim.
I've got 2 words for you, Luke. The Force.
The Force. That's great, yeah.
Good point. Yeah, you're very good at coincidences. Actually, you should be called Luke. Your superpower should be finding coincidences in films, and you should be called Coinky Dink Man.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's just like I notice stuff like that. It's a blessing and a curse, Michael. What can I say?
Yeah, that's true. I too am cursed with knowledge.
Yeah,
you're my only curse. So structure. You were the one who kind of brought that up, so I'll let you talk about really what you want to talk about. I mean, there's one obvious thing. Michael.
Sorry? We're missing 2 very important things that we do when we introduce in these movies. We talk about the plot and whether we liked it.
Yeah, you know what, Luke? I had noticed that you didn't say whether or not we liked it, but you were already mentioning nitpicks, and I was like, I'll bring that up later. But then I forgot. So yeah, okay. So we do...
Just tell me if you liked it, Michael. Just tell me if you liked it. Did you like Avengers Infinity War?
I thought the good outweighed the bad.
Yeah, I'd say that this movie was impressive, and I kind of liked it.
Yeah, you know what? We agree like a bit too much. No, I agree, because I was thinking to myself, there is like so much about this film that's like, yeah, literally impressive, but and yeah, like that's kind of, I don't know why that particular phrase of the good outweighed the bad is like how I would summarize my feelings of this film, because I feel like there was a lot of things I didn't like. It's kind of the opposite to Captain America: The First Avenger. Captain America: The First Avenger was literally just kind of everything was teetering around average, whereas with this film, there's a lot of good things, a lot of really, well, not necessarily really bad things, but a lot of things that are like a problem. Anyway, so tell us about the plot, Luke.
So the plot of Avengers Infinity War. Basically...
Come on, Luke, it's easy.
I mean, I'm just looking and it's just like, it's just one line. In the film, the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy attempt to stop Thanos from amassing the all-powerful Infinity Stones. And that's it. They're just trying to stop him.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Yeah, I suppose in a way it's kind of like true. In fact, actually, you know what? Even though you've brought up structure, I'm going to start off with that because I think that's kind of interesting. And it's something that I didn't really think about until just now. But when you look at it, I think this is something maybe... I think we can talk about the general things about the plot actually here, because there's a few things I wanted to say. But yeah, sure. First things first, okay? That very simplistic explanation kind of does suffice, because the problem is, in a way, this film, it's... I think I'm going to mention this now. Thanos just decides all of a sudden to go get the Infinity Stones and does it with relative ease. And the thing about that is it basically means that this entire film is just Thanos goes to this place and gets an Infinity Stone, or his minions go. It's basically just all about getting the Infinity Stones. The film doesn't really stop to do much else apart from that. And in that sense, you could literally just summarize the film as like a dude collects a bunch of stones. And I think that's like an interesting, because I didn't really think about it until you gave that summary. I thought, well, actually, that kind of does. I mean, if you were to add other stuff to that, you'd kind of say, I guess you'd say, like, meanwhile, Thor goes to get a hammer to stop him.
Yeah, but it's all in aid of stopping him. That's the thing, like, it's simple, but when you've got, like, 4 groups doing the same thing, you can make, like, a 2.5-hour movie out of it.
Yeah. And speaking of that, anyway, yeah, you take over the rest of the structure, because, like I say, it was you who brought it up as a thing to discuss.
So yeah, well, what we just said really, it's just four. There's 3 to 4 main plot lines, and they all do kind of feel like B stories. There's no real A story, but what you do have is you have Thanos running throughout the movie, which links everything together. And I think that was I said that's the difference with this movie and another movie which
Force
had a lot
Awakens.
No, I wasn't going to say the Force Awakens.
Oh, sorry, no, The Last Jedi.
No, I wasn't going to say The Last Jedi.
Well, I want it on record The Last Jedi is an example because The Last Jedi had loads of B stories. I didn't mean to say Force Awakens at all. I didn't say Last Jedi, but yeah. So what's your one that isn't Last Jedi?
Batman v Superman.
Oh, yeah.
I think we talked about it in DCM, but I remember I was saying there was so many plot lines and that never works. And with this one, it's kind of the same. There's 4 plot lines, but you've got Thanos, like I said, just appearing in each plot line. He's there. He's constantly on the characters' minds. All the plots, they're trying to do the same thing, so it doesn't get that complicated. Like Iron Man and Captain America, although they're on completely different worlds, completely different storylines, they are trying to do the same thing. So that's what manages to make it manageable, even though you've got 20 characters and 4 storylines.
This film is almost confusingly unconfusing.
Yeah.
You're sat there and you're just baffled because you're thinking to yourself, I understand what's happening right now. Yeah. How is this possible?
Well, because they've all got the same goal. They're all stopping Thanos. They're just doing it in different places, and it works obviously because there's multiple Infinity Stones, so they can stop Thanos getting one particular Infinity Stone in each location that they're at. But yeah, I think also what makes this work is Thanos is a good character, which we'll get onto later. So him being there, running throughout the movie works because he's good. I'm sorry to bring up Steppenwolf again, but if he was in Thanos' place, it just wouldn't feel the same. The structure just wouldn't have worked as well. We'll go through the plot lines now, obviously.
What were the 3 things Steppenwolf was trying to collect? I forget. Were they 3 cubes of chaos or something like that?
The mother boxes.
Oh, mother boxes.
Mother boxes, because it's a silly name.
All right. Anyway, yeah. Should we take it?
I'll just say, by the way, what we've got. We've got Doctor Strange, Iron Man, and Spider-Man, which we will refer to as the smart white guy group. Yeah. And you've got Gamora, Star-Lord, Drax, who are the Guardians of the Galaxy group, and the Green Insect, who obviously join up with the previous group on Titan, sans Gamora. Then you've got the guys on Earth, Captain America, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Bucky, Black Panther, Hulk, Falcon, and War Machine. Then you have Groot, Rocket, and Thor, who go off to get their hammer, being made by Peter Dinklage, and obviously then they end up on Earth as well, that group. So at the end of the movie, you have 2 separate groups, one on Titan and one on Earth.
Wait a minute, what happened to? Rockety. Was Rocket there? Oh, he was, wasn't he? Yeah, he did appear. I'd forgotten that. Sorry, I was being stupid. Yeah.
Groot's the one who dies at the end, and Rocket is.
Yeah, and he's like, no.
Yeah,
that's how it sounds.
How Bradley Cooper sounds.
No, exactly not like this.
Oh god. So Thanos, he's the key to all this. He's the key.
Yeah, well, he's a funnier character than we've had before. He's in a big doo-doo now. I think that would have improved the film if when he's out there looking over the sunset, it's like, you say in a big doo-doo now.
He's got a lot of Phantom Menace references.
Oh goodness, I can't believe we're reviewing that soon. Get hyped.
Well, soon, it's in December.
Well, the important thing is we've planned it out. So
yeah, exactly. It's on the Excel spreadsheet, so,
so that means
it's almost there. Yeah. Thanos, he's in all 4 storylines because he's with Thor at the beginning. Then he's with the Reality Stone with Star-Lord's group as well. Obviously he turns up on Titan to fight Iron Man's group, and then he goes to Earth, meets the Earth group with Captain America and all them to finally finish them all off. So yeah, him going about it really does help. But yeah, anything else to say on general plot, or should we get into the different groups?
I've got nothing else to say on general plot, so I think we should jump into smart white guy group.
Smart white guy group. Okay, so yeah, this group contains Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man. So what you got to say about this?
I've got a main thing to say, which is, I guess, a positive.
Okay.
That is a positive. I don't want to say I guess a positive, which is I liked Tony's... One of the things I think this film kind of explored quite well was Tony's sense of obligation to Spider-Man.
Yes.
And then, of course, it has to be said, I know this is kind of jumping ahead, but I think it needs to just, I don't know, it's the main thing I've got written down, which is, of course, the fact that Spider-Man dies, and it is just mental. Because it has been, we'll talk about this later, it has been memed, but there is, that Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. And I don't want to go, please. And Iron Man, he was like, yeah, I want to protect you, and you can't get involved in this or else you'll die.
I remember just
good.
watching that moment in the cinema, and obviously you see like 15
kids.
people. Man, yeah, they would have been devastated. You see like 15 people die before him, and then you're not expecting the death to be that emotional or that impactful, because it's like, oh, Spider-Man's going to die now. He's next on the list, but like it really just hits you hard when he says, "I don't feel so good," and then he lies down and he just goes, and it's like, wow, that was really well done.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it's very. I think a film always does well if it shows people not wanting to die, because I think deep down nobody really wants to die. That's my theory.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And therefore, like, you know, a lot of times when people die in films, they're kind of stoic about it. Or, I mean, really, there are only two kinds of deaths. There's like stoic deaths, or there's like deaths that are cathartic because it's a bad guy, or it's like an awesome death, like in Death Note. You know, for example, you get lots of awesome deaths in Death Note. That's what in the Marvel universe we'd call foreshadowing. But you know, but then of course, you know, you don't usually get those kind of deaths where someone's just like, you know, I don't want to die. You're like, oh shit, you know, this just reminded me, dying sucks. Because like that's the thing. I mean, in film, like in a way, I feel like
we become numb to it.
In some ways, I think action films are a way of like dealing with our own anxieties over like mortality, because we have these films where you just see like people dying all the time, so you kind of just like get numb to it. And then, you know, suddenly, boom, someone's like reminds you that dying is like a thing, you know, because think about how many times take Winter Soldier, for example, last film we saw. How many people did Captain America, our hero, just like waste? How many fathers aren't coming home to their children because of Captain America? And you're just like, yeah, cool, awesome, good kick, Cappy. But then suddenly, boom, Spider-Man dead. Anyway, what else? Did you have anything to say about Smart?
No, I just want to say, by the way, we're going to talk about the whole death.
I thought you would want to talk about that at the end too, which is why I kind of didn't want to, you know, but it was a very relevant thing I thought to that.
No, it is relevant, right? Yeah. So at the start, I think obviously you got the scene where they're fighting Thanos' henchmen, or that group in New York, and I thought it would have been better if like Tony Stark was more dismissive of Thanos. Like he's talking to Doctor Strange about him and Bruce Banner, that's his name, and nearly called him Steve Bannon then, and he was like. He was like, oh, Thanos, well, we defeated him once, we can do it again. You know, he's being really cocky and all that. Then he gets upstaged. I think that would have been a good storyline.
Yeah, I agree.
Unfortunately, they don't really do that, which I think is a missed opportunity.
Because he calls that guy Squidward. I know Squidward.
That's a reference. Yeah.
Actually, no, I did want to say one final thing about Tony Stark, and it's kind of going to take away from the Spider-Man thing. But basically, I feel like the only thing about Tony Stark is he's got like, I feel like you could say he has three things going on right now. It's very clear. I mean, like, you know how it was very obvious Han was going to die in The Force Awakens?
Yeah.
I would say that Tony Stark dying in Endgame is like up there. You've got an actor who's like is clearly past playing this role anymore, as in just like they don't seem that interested in it. And then you've got like all these different things that would be like, you know, brought together by him dying. But the thing is, you've got this whole thing with Pepper Potts, and he's married now. Does that happen on camera? Does that happen in any of the films? I don't think it does. I guess that's why they say, why they keep referencing it, to kind of tell us that happened.
Thinking back to
Iron Man 3.
Yeah, Iron Man 3, like Pepper Potts becomes that superhuman thing at the end.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember him getting married.
Well, I do remember when he got married, and the priest, it turned out the priest was just an actor, and he wasn't a real priest. And then he went, ha, I am an actor. You've been fooled.
What?
It's a reference to the Mandarin. Because Mandarin was just an actor.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Bit slow on that one, but yeah. So also, obviously, this group, they get stuck on this Squidward-looking guy's spaceship. And this is what I'm going to mention this a couple of times more in the movie, but obviously there's a lot going on in this movie. There's a lot of plot lines, and so sometimes you kind of do forget that there's characters in the movie, and it happened with this group. So the first cut back to the group when they're on the spaceship, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about these guys. Like, they could have perhaps moved that before another scene, because
yeah,
that was one of the times, and there was another later on where I was like, oh yeah, these guys, yeah, they're in it. Yeah, that was, maybe they could have shuffled something around a bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, and also the evil Squidward guy. Sorry, we don't know his name, but yeah, you know what we're talking about. His death is a bit shit. Like, he seems super powerful.
What I wanted to see is when he gets sucked out, he starts floating and he floats back into the ship. That's what I would have liked to see.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, he seems so powerful and he just dies, like, easily. Like, that. That was me clicking my fingers.
Yeah, actually, you know, I didn't really think about it, but it's kind of like, you know, a bit... I mean, to be honest, like, I don't know, this film, it's like, people just die so Yeah, so easy, and it's kind of bizarre. I mean, yeah, we'll have to talk. Yeah, we will talk about that later. But yeah.
I mean, like the thing is, he was powerful, and he was more than a match for Doctor Strange and Iron Man, and probably Spider-Man as well. And then all of a sudden, he's just dead. And yeah, they could have done better there, in my opinion. But maybe they were running short on time, so they just wanted to get him out of the way. I'm not sure.
No, yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely something that we could. In general, it does seem like this film. It's definitely a bit fast paced, shall we say, and a bit. Everything's happening just all the time. There's so much stuff happening in this film.
I think it needs to be fast paced though. Like it's one of those films where if it's not fast paced, then it drags. Because generally I don't mind it when films are quote unquote drag, but with this one it does seem like they need to get going. Otherwise, then it just becomes even more bloated than it already is. They need to cut down on. They need to trim the fat basically, which is why I guess making it fast paced is the only option that they had.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Guardians of the Galaxy next.
Yeah. So
I just want to say I love the introduction of the Guardians of the Galaxy. It comes at a good time. It's like, oh yeah, these guys are in this movie too. I'm looking forward to, seeing them interacting with the Avengers because they're the only group that hasn't. They're not technically in the Avengers. Obviously, they're off doing their own thing. So yeah, that was what I was looking forward to seeing them with the Avengers.
It was good. It was good hearing them hear about the Avengers from the perspective of people who don't know about the Avengers. So it's like, I'm with the Avengers, and then when they meet the Avengers, like, oh, you're the Avengers that Thor mentioned, and it's, I like that.
Yeah, it was good. And the first scene when Thor gets on their ship, that's really good. And the humor, which we'll talk about later. So that was probably the best scene in terms of humor in the movie. That one.
Yes.
That scene gets a thumbs up from me. Also, do you want to say anything about that scene? That segment?
No. I guess that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, Thor, Groot, and the Raccoon go off to get Thor's hammer or make Thor's hammer, and so then Gamora, Star-Lord, Drax, and the Green Insect Girl, they fly to nowhere, which is a really
stupid name. That's the word you're looking for, Luke. Stupid name.
They fly to nowhere to try and retrieve the what was it? There's the Reality Stone. That was it. From the Collector. And
yes.
I do like the fact that Thanos used the Reality Stone. It was a good move because it's nice to see what these stones can actually do. Obviously, he uses some stones later on in the movie, like the Time Zone. He constantly uses the Power Stone and the Space Stone. But yeah, using the Reality Stone to show what it can do. I like that. That was a good move.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was quite neat. And then we've got his relationship with Gamora, which I think is the last bit of this Guardians of the Galaxy group, which I think we should talk about in this section.
Yes. So I thought that I was thinking to myself, I think they should have, in general, I mean, I could mention this with Thanos in broadly, but I was kind of thinking that I wanted it set up a bit more in advance, film-wise. I was kind of, I know they sort of set up the fact that she was his daughter. I think they did that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yes,
I remember that happening.
Yes, yeah. But they never said. I think the problem is that the emotional impact for Thanos is something that, or the fact that Thanos actually had an emotional connection with her is kind of almost it's communicated at the very moment that she kills him, that he kills her, which is kind of I think in some sense you could go both ways on that, but I kind of didn't like it that much because I thought, I guess this is the way you could say, well, the minute that you find out that he truly does care, this is the line where, he starts crying and the person's like, it's not tears for him, it's tears for you because he loves you so much and he's going to sacrifice you. And that was kind of good, but at the same time, it sort of just felt like, oh, okay, Thanos was like, oh wait, she's dead. It was there wasn't really much time to process the fact that Thanos cared about her and therefore this was a real sacrifice for him. At least that's what I found. Yeah, I think the flashback did help, yeah. Yeah,
that was a good decision to include that flashback in. The thing is, I'm thinking of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I do remember there being a scene in which she's talking to her sister, which is that robot girl.
Yeah, robot girl.
Played by, what was she called? The Scottish lady who was in Doctor Who.
Oh, goodness me. You mean, you mean the one who played Amy Pond?
Yes, the one who played Amy Pond. She's in Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle as well.
Yeah,
that's annoying.
I don't remember. I don't actually know if I remember her name, to be honest. I
would if you gave me 4 options. Give me the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Okay, yeah, I will. Don't worry. So
I think
your options are well, I'll just tell you what it is. It's Karen Gillan.
No, I didn't get. Well, I would have got it.
Oh wait, hold on. Apparently, she was played by two different people. Now that's confusing. Oh, I think one of them's young Amy Pond. There's also Caitlin Blackwood played young Amy Pond.
Must be a child version of her. Yeah, but so yes, she. So yeah, on Guardians of the Galaxy, she was talking to Gamora, and they were discussing Thanos and how I remember Gamora said that every day Thanos made them fight, and every day Gamora won.
Oh yeah, I remember
that. So every day she got the robot girl got punished by becoming a little bit more artificial each time. I think that was what I got. So from there you get the fact that Thanos is evil and Gamora dislikes Thanos. You don't get the sense that Thanos loves Gamora, but at least there is something there. If you have watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2, you know that there is something there, and it's not just out of nowhere that old Gamora's the daughter of Thanos.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think as well, just talking with the relationship between Gamora and Thanos, it's always more interesting if you do have an emotional attachment between a villain and the hero. And the scene between Thanos and Gamora, I know you said it wasn't that great, or it wasn't as good as it could have been, but I have to say I really did like it. I love the concept. Gamora, like she must be feeling so many different thoughts, like, oh, he does actually love me, so that must be nice for her, but that means he's going to kill her.
Yeah, it always sucks, doesn't it?
It's an interesting dilemma, and obviously Thanos showing that he does love Gamora, and therefore sacrificing her shows again how committed and determined he is, and makes him scary, and again just makes him that much better a villain. The scene with him crying, like, this is why we'll talk about it's Thanos' movie later, but how many times have you seen like a villain like crying in a superhero movie?
I feel like the Green Goblin almost cries in the original Spider-Man when he goes, "Peter, it's not me, it's the suit," something like that. I don't know what he says, but whatever he says.
So a villain that's crying in a movie that isn't mentally ill.
That's easy. I feel like they're all kind of mentally ill. So
is Thanos mentally ill? I mean, he's
pretty crazy.
I mean, yeah, but he's not like he could do a test
true.
and
would you say he's high functioning? That's what we'd say.
Yeah,
a high functioning mentally ill person.
He's a psychopath. So that doesn't is being a psychopath being mentally ill? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Well, it doesn't really matter. The important thing is that we got that fantastic Red Skull. What a great callback!
Everyone was waiting for it.
It was so worth watching Captain America: The First Avenger.
Now I get it.
To be honest, I was thinking this, and I've been thinking this for a long time. We probably should have watched the Guardians of the Galaxy films in anticipation for this, because I felt like they had more to do with it. But it's fine. It's fine, Luke. I'll forgive you.
I think I mean, the thing is, they aren't in the Avengers. So obviously we did a bunch of Avengers stuff last year for Infinity War, and the Guardians of the Galaxy aren't in the Avengers. And this year, well, we could have, but I was like,
we didn't.
Yeah, let's do Captain America, because there won't be any more Captain America movies, and there is definitely going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Oh yeah, that's true, actually, yeah.
That's why I decided to do it. Also, just a point, it also makes sense as to why Gamora is there, as Thanos obviously wanted her to tell him where this Soul Stone was. So it's like, I don't know, so often like in this kind of situation, it's like, oh, how convenient that Thanos has Gamora to throw. But, it all makes sense. I do appreciate that. It's something that they could have overlooked, but it works very well, that scene. I very much like that scene.
I did want to say one thing, actually. It was almost a nitpick, actually, but it's not enough of a nitpick for me to have cared about it, but it's enough of a nitpick for me to bring it up now, which is I was thinking to myself, they say that like you need to sacrifice something you love in order to prove that you're like worthy of having the Soul Stone, and I'm thinking like, who decided that? It sounds like they were a psychopath, because I mean, here's a question, Luke. Would you, if you had a daughter, would you throw her into a horrible, terrible chasm because you wanted, to control people's souls?
If I was a psychopath, then maybe.
See, that's the thing. See, so like it's clear the entire system is designed to like basically what they're implicitly saying is, because the thing is here, which is that you have to give up something you love in order to show that you're worthy of having it, and they literally say a soul for a soul. So you couldn't even say, well, I love my money, and throw your money in there. They're literally saying you've got to sacrifice the person you love most. They're basically setting it up so they're saying the only person worthy of having this power is a psychopath. So it's hardly even Thanos. Yeah, it's hardly even Thanos' fault.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a flawed system because whoever's going to do that, they shouldn't be getting this all-powerful stone in the first place.
You would almost think, okay, so you know how like in the Bible when God...
No, I don't know. I don't know, Michael.
Actually, that's not a good example at all. But basically, it's like okay, no, I've got a good example. Okay, this is a better example. It's also from the Bible, but it's the exact opposite message because we get that. So when the two women are fighting over a baby, and one of them says it's her baby, one of them says the other baby, and Solomon says to decide it will cut the baby in half. And obviously, the woman whose baby it actually is really upset over this, while the woman who is just trying to be a bitch, she's not upset because she's whatever.
I've always thought that woman had weird motivations. Like, what is it? Does she just want to take the baby off the woman?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Having half a baby.
I think, to be honest, she should be an Avengers villain. She should be a Marvel villain. Her motivation is so terrible. But yeah, and then obviously, basically that's what it should have been like. It should have been like, when Thanos sacrificed her, it should have been like the fact that you sacrificed her to gain power proves you're not worthy.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. So they set up a terrible system, and you get what you pay for.
I know you do. Anyway, I don't know if the Red Skull did that or whoever, but yeah. Not a good system. Should probably trial it a bit before you implement it.
Yeah. So we move on to what happens on Titan when the two groups come together.
Yes, we shall. So obviously Star-Lord and his crew mate up with Iron Man and his crew, and then shit goes down on Titan. So do you want to talk about it first?
Well, I was thinking maybe you would like to reiterate the thing that you said you were going to talk about, and I stole your thunder.
What was I going to talk about?
Peter Quill being an idiot.
Oh, yeah. So I'll just talk about the whole action scene first. So Thanos returns to Titan. Again, there's a bit too big a gap between the last Titan scene when they're discussing the plan and then when Thanos returns. It's like, oh yeah, these guys exist.
I was thinking that too, because I remember, as you know, Luke, I was rewatching this film for the second time very shortly before this thing, and I was obviously very conscious of the time because, and I was thinking to myself, because they were having the battle, and I was thinking, wow, this battle is going to, because it was about an hour and 40 minutes in, and the battle was just beginning, and I was thinking to myself, wow, this battle is going to last for ages, and then of course suddenly they cut to Thanos on Titan. I was like, oh wait, yeah, this is happening, so that's going to kill some time. Good.
Yeah, you are kind of like, oh yeah, these Guardians of the Avengers, they're all on Titan, they're waiting for Thanos. But that's the thing, because in between those two scenes, you have all that shit going down on Earth in Wakanda, which needs, and Thor's hammer as well, which they need to interlink because they're pretty vital scenes.
Yeah.
A lot of explaining going on there. So yeah, I guess the gap has to happen in this case. But yeah, the action scene then, when the Avengers all have a plan, they try to subdue Thanos. It's really executed well. All of them are using their powers effectively. I do like that when the superheroes team up to use their powers, and they do it in a smart way. It's really neat to see. It's something that I guess before all these comic book movies came out, that is what I think comic book fans, they probably look forward to the most. Just a bunch of superheroes using their powers at the same time to try and defeat the all-powerful villain. So yeah, I do like those kind of things. But then Star-Lord goes and ruins it all, Michael, by doing something just so incredibly stupid.
Yeah, it's the worst.
It's one of the only times in the movie, I think it might possibly be the only time in the movie when you're just caught sighing and going, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, that's just stupid. Don't do that. Like,
yeah.
You can say he's impulsive. He's hot-tempered, I don't know, but, like, they're about to fucking save the universe.
Yeah, and the thing is, they don't even acknowledge it. Like, at the end, he's like, or like towards the end, he's like, did we just lose? When Thanos leaves, he's like, did we just lose? And it's like, no, you lost.
It was your fucking fault.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think he should be court-martialed.
It was like last night when Christian Eriksen passed it back and nearly gave the goal to Man City. Thankfully, Aguero was offside, but it would be like if Aguero wasn't offside and then Christian Eriksen said to all the Tottenham players, did we just lose? They're like, no, Christian Eriksen. You lost. It's your fault. None of this we bullshit.
Yeah, I would kill Peter Quill. Peter Quill is the real villain. They should make a film called The Phantom Menace. It should be about how Peter Quill is the one behind pulling all the shadows, pulling all the strings.
I think I heard, by the way, just to go on from this, I think I heard a lot of people after the Avengers were pissed off at Star-Lord, which is kind of stupid because it's fiction, but whatever. It goes to show that a lot of people also didn't really like the scene and
Star-Lord. Also, I have a weird one for that. Well, it's not really weird, but you said you really liked the action scene, and I agree, but I think it was partially just because of like the amount of action, like the saturation of action in this film, which I wasn't totally about in general. But there was a point, I don't know why, but I had a moment where I thought to myself, I can't believe I'm watching a film right now. And it was just like, I think it was just because it was like so much stuff had just been happening with like people. I felt like I was watching WWE. I was like, I can't believe this is. I guess it's because, and this is my thing. I'll maybe talk about it later, but in fact, I'll come back to this later to an extent. I'll just say, like, this film, it doesn't have that many moments when it really has a good old stop. And I know we've already spoken about the thing, but it was like because of that, to me, it made the action feel like a bit. Because, like, a normal film, you have, like, an action scene to break up the boredom. In this film, you had the boredom bits to break up the action scenes. I was like, oh, thank God. It's not a boring bit. It's like I kind of a break from the action.
Yeah, that is true. Again, I'll defend them by saying they needed it to be fast-paced. They couldn't have done this any other way. And
there was no other way.
And also...
They tried... They looked at 14 million different ways of making this film, and there was only one where it worked.
Yeah. That's good. I knew you were going to say that as soon as no, but that's the thing. I think you're right, but this action scene in particular I think was executed very well, and it was smartly done, so I did.
I agree. It was I feel like there was another really good Avengers action scene I liked, but I can't remember what it was. I'll tell you what, I think it wasn't in the original Avengers, but actually no, I think it was in the original Avengers, but I think it was one of the early scenes in the original Avengers. So there we go. That's your answer. But in general, sometimes Avengers is quite hit and miss. I've always found with like the quality of the action, and a lot of times it does just seem like they're just Well, actually, you know what? I mean, the Civil War. That's a good action scene in the airport. Anyway, shall we move on to Earth Group now?
Yes, Earth Group. Earth Group is the right thing. Yeah. So first Earth Group thing is the scene with Scarlet Witch and Vision.
Yes.
When they're in Scotland, which is okay, standard action stuff. Then Captain America comes in to save the day.
Yeah,
not a lot to say about that.
I for some reason, that was. I think this is another example of the whole action fatigue thing because it's the opposite. So at that point, I was like quite happy because I was like, oh, it's nice to see them all kind of come together. I do like the moments when they come together. And in that moment, it felt like a very kind of authentic moment because when Steve Rogers shows up, it's like we're coming to save the day, coming to help you because we're heroes and we stick together. So it's kind of like the opposite to the Thanos scene in it when they were all fighting Thanos. I was like a bit tired of the action. This time I was like, okay, I'm enjoying this action. Anyway,
again, this is another complaint, I guess, with the pacing, whatever. When Captain America, Black Widow all arrive in Wakanda, it's another one of those, oh shit, I forgot these characters are in this movie. Like there's a big gap in between them, just like with Stark, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man earlier on. That's just another thing I noticed. I guess it's just the size of this movie, it's bound to happen. But I think we should now talk about the fight scene in Wakanda.
Yes, so I have a kind of unconventional positive. And this is something usually, I kind of can still complain about it a bit. So obviously the thing everyone complains about with Marvel is giant CGI armies.
Yes.
And the thing is, I kind of liked the idea. So this is my one positive. I like the idea of the army being like zombies, basically, or like zombie dogs. And I was like, okay, that's at least a kind of cool, because you could say they're an army, but it's kind of like one of those situations where it sort of makes more sense that it's a giant CGI army and that it's literally just a bunch of mindless, grunty things.
Yeah.
Having said that, it is still a CGI army.
Yeah, okay, so it is like your typical mindless fodder that the superheroes have to defeat, but the fact is they're so violent, it does add something different.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, basically, it's kind of. I think actually the one thing I would say as a more legitimate criticism is that I wish they were kind of set up. I mean, do we ever see those monsters in action before? They kind of just like appear out of nowhere.
No, and again, that would have been nice. But
yeah, I mean, it always comes back to the really good scene in The Two Towers when Wormtongue's like, it will take thousands to storm Helm's Deep, and Saruman's like tens of thousands, and Wormtongue's like, but my lord, there is no such army. And then they walk out, and there's just this massive army of orcs. Isn't that just the best scene in this whole trilogy?
In movie history.
Yeah, so basically they should have had that scene. Should be like, it would take thousands to storm Wakanda, tens of thousands. But Thanos, there is no such army. And then you just see a bunch of, look at this, it walks out, and there's just a bunch of CG animators. Like, work harder, we're trying, Thanos.
Oh, God.
And actually, I had one other thing to say about this. I didn't know where to put this, because this happens in the Tony Stark thing too. But basically, I want to talk about having the litany of secondary antagonists get wasted. I thought that was like a good decision in a way, because it's kind of like, obviously you couldn't have Thanos die, but you had his kind of 4 lackeys, which were really tall guy, really big, strong, muscly guy, wizard guy, and a woman. And those were the 4 people. And I thought it was kind of like nice that, they all died. And it was like, okay, so you got kind of some catharsis. I guess the only thing I would say is, did any of those 4 characters get much setup in the previous films?
No, none at all.
Yeah.
They're all
So
I would have liked it if one survived, because maybe that one, the woman one.
Yeah, actually, the woman's death was the one that felt the worst, because it felt like the least like it came out of somewhere.
Yeah, that would have been good if she lived, and I don't know.
Wow, what a white knight.
Yeah, I think it would have been good to just save one, because after Thanos, it's like, you could set up a movie when she's the villain and she's out to get revenge.
Oh, man, what you're describing is the plot to Shrek 3.
Am I describing the plot?
At the end of the Shrek 3, of course, in Shrek 2, Prince Charming and the fairy godmother conspire to take over the world, and at the end, the fairy godmother dies, and then in Shrek the Third, Prince Charming returns as our main villain. So basically that's it. Yeah. So whenever you have like the lackey from the last film return as the main villain, that's actually, what, it also happens in Tolkien, because as we know, Sauron was a subsidiary of Melkor, and Melkor dies in the Silmarillion and Sauron takes his place. So it's a strategy. It works.
Fair enough. Just a couple more things on the big fight at the end. I do love the bit when Captain America and Black Panther are like running faster than everyone else towards the...
Because you felt that it made sense, because it showed racial equality. It's like, if it would have just been Black Panther running fast, it would have been terrible.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's just, it's a nice touch. Again, it's like those little details which you can just appreciate. And then there's the scene where Thor comes down. Obviously, we're going to talk about his hammer later, but Thor comes back into this fight at the end in Wakanda, and it's a perfect setup. All the heroes are struggling, and then he comes in with his new hammer, and it's a proper hero's entrance.
They play the music,
and the music's roaring, and it's like, yeah, that's cool, man. Now, I'll forgive this movie for not explaining how he knew he had to go to Wakanda. I'll forgive that, because I don't know how he would have known. But yeah, it's fantastic, really, when he just slams his hammer at all those monsters. It's those moments which, you can just sit back and think, wow, superhero movies, eh? This ain't nothing like it.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely the most superhero moment to have a superhero moment. One question, by the way, are we? Did you say we're going to talk about the scene where all the Avengers die at a different point?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just put that to a side, because I was going to put it under there. So are we going to talk about Hammer Group now?
Hammer Group. Yeah.
All right. Stop. Hammer Group.
Oh, that's a MC Hammer.
Yeah. It's a new song that kids are singing nowadays.
How does that song go?
You know what? The thing is, I've got the Eminem version where he goes, "Now stop. Pajama time. Come here, little kitties, on my lap. Guess who's back for a brand new rap? And I don't mean rappers in a new case of child molestation accusations." Which is... well, it's in reference. It was at the time when the whole Michael Jackson thing was going on. He says, "Now that's not a stab at Michael. That's just a metaphor. I'm just psycho." It's classic.
Okay.
But actually, I'll tell you how it goes. It goes, it's can't touch it. Come on, what are you saying, man? Can't touch it. Don't. Look at my eyes, man. Can't touch it.
Do. Fresh new kicks and pants. I got all of that. No, dance. No, it's rolling. Okay.
Then what about, all right, stop. Collaborate and listen. So MC's here with a brand new vision. I don't actually know if that's how it goes. That just seemed like it made sense in my head. Anyway, okay, so Hammer Group.
I just want to say, it's technically Hammer Group with Thor's in there, but the first scene in the movie, Michael, we haven't talked about the very first scene when Thanos comes in and kills Loki.
Which is a direct setup from
Thor Ragnarok.
The end of Thor Ragnarok. Which, to be honest, I only knew because I recently watched all of a compilation of all the Marvel end credit scenes. I watched it.
Yes. The thing is, it does kind of undercut Thor Ragnarok, because it's kind of, yay, we escaped Asgard. We've done it. And then, literally, in the next movie, they're all dead.
So you're saying that this is literally the Aliens 3 of the Avengers films?
Yes, unfortunately it is. And but I do think the first scene, apart from that, the fact that it undercuts Thor Ragnarok, it is a great first scene. And Thanos establishing his dominance right from the get-go, beating the Hulk, crushing Loki. Just you can tell immediately like he's scary and he's intimidating, and it just immediately right from the get go set him up to be this very powerful villain.
Yeah, I do have a problem. Well, it's a contextual problem. It's the line. It's the line, no resurrections this time. And I was thinking to myself, that's kind of the problem, because you know how I was doing a bit of foreshadowing in the last review we did, because I was saying how I said, I was talking about Bucky Barnes, and I was saying how you need to believe that these characters are actually dead. And one of the ways that you can't believe that is if the films are constantly jerking you around by convincing you people are dead and not actually dead. And of course, I brought up Nick Fury. Of course, we're made to believe he's dead. He's not actually dead. And that line, no resurrections this time, I think sums up like one of the reasons why I can understand people being a bit emotionally disenchanted with this film, because it's basically just like saying, it's literally like, the classic Charlie Brown thing where he's going to kick a football and the goal keeps fitting. It's just saying, like, okay, there are real stakes this time. When the characters die, they're definitely going to die. And you're like, okay, I guess I'll believe it because Thanos is saying it. But the fact that he has to tell me that, it's like he has to say, this is for real. I'm really killing. He looks at the camera. He says, "I'm really killing Loki this time, guys. Okay, I just want you to understand." It's oh goodness, yes. But so yeah, and I was but again, obviously that's not really a problem with this film. It's a problem with the entire context of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I mean, how many times has like Loki is up there in my opinion with Bucky as like just one of those annoying characters that won't go away.
Oh, because, no, I don't think so. I think he's actually got a bit of charisma about him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's slightly better. I think the thing they both have in common though is that like, because you wouldn't ever want Captain America as a friend or like somebody to save you, because you know that if that person saving you is Bucky, you can't guarantee that Captain America will be able to really deal with Bucky as effectively as he could. In fact, he'd probably just leave you, just like, oh, Bucky's doing it, no problem. And I kind of feel that way about Thor and Loki. Like, they say they hate each other, but ultimately, it's a bit worrying to me that they've got this familial relationship and Thor hasn't killed him yet. So anyway, so really Thor should have been happy.
Okay. Next up in this Hammer group, you've got the scene with Thor and Rocket when they're just flying to the star thing. Good humor again. Like, I think that, you mentioned it before when Thor was meeting with the Guardians of the Galaxy. That is the best moments of humor in the movie. I did like how Thor was having, talking about how all of his family and his friends have died. And it's like, oh yeah, this guy's got some good motivation. It's established.
I liked, well, again, there's another scene which is kind of strange because, again, if you look at it through comic book logic, you can kind of see how there's like a subtext of like trying to avoid the problem with comic books, because Thor says, I've lived for 1,500 years. He says, I've been around for 1,500 issues, and every single year, or people have always come up to me and they've always wanted me dead, and none of them have succeeded, and therefore, this is going to be fine. And Rocket Raccoon's like, but what if you're wrong? And what if this time you're not guaranteed to win just because you're one of the heroes in this film, in this Marvel Cinematic Universe film? And Thor says, good question, Rocket. Which again, it was a very good line. Like that was I preferred that to the no resurrections this time thing, because it was actually a kind of clever or like interesting line for like the Thor to deal with, because there is this idea of like, especially seeing as Thor is a god, so you can see him being like, oh yeah, it's going to be fine, and he's probably not that emotionally prepared for losing. Having said that, yeah, if you view it within the context of the hero always wins, which they pretty much always do, then you could say this is like Alliance being like, hey guys, watch out, this ain't going to be like no other film. Which is, fine, I guess. I don't mind being talked to by the subtext of a film. Yeah,
also, obviously, the place that they go to is this dying star.
They go to Alderaan.
Alderaan. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. It's got some
it's
Norwegian name.
I feel like it's called like Niflware or something like that.
Yeah, some Norwegian-sounding place. But yeah, so what I like there is Thanos has already been there, which does explain the Infinity Gauntlet, which again is appreciated. It's another nice bit of detail. It's like, oh yeah, so that's where the Infinity Gauntlet came from. It's not really a question I was asking.
It's called a Nidavellir.
Nidavellir. Yeah, it's got like 2 L's in it, hasn't it?
There's your useless piece of information that you'll immediately forget. And just call it Dwarf Planet. Actually, it doesn't work. Tell you what, that's annoying, because a Dwarf Planet is a technical, like an actual thing.
Yeah, what about
I think like Pluto's
Big Dwarf Planet?
Yeah, Big Dwarf Planet.
Yeah. So yeah, I also like the scene with Thor creating the hammer. When Groot grabs the hammer, puts it together on his hand twitches. It's a nice moment, What can you say? It's good.
I just wondered, does being part of the hammer cause the wood to become indestructible? Because you would think otherwise, you just smash it. I mean, and then the question becomes, could you have just thrown a broomstick in there? Does it cause whatever handle it has to become indestructible, or is it something about Groot combined with a hammer?
I don't know, Michael. I don't know. Peter Dinklage is good, though.
Yeah, he is. He's also good in this show. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's on now. It's called Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Every time I mention it, I can put it in the tags. People will be like, "Oh, this mentions Game of Thrones. I'll watch it." And then they get to this, and they realize they've been duped. Huh.
I mean, the thing is, like, I'm not one of those people who are like, "Oh, guess what, guys? I've never seen Game of Thrones."
But you are one of those people.
But it's like everybody keeps on mentioning it.
Oh, look, I hardly ever mention Game of Thrones. No,
not you. Just people on. Basically, it's just people on Twitter. And just everyone I follow just watches it and posting shit. I'm like, I genuinely don't care.
Wait, hold on, Luke. Are you saying you didn't watch my official season 8 predictions?
No, because I don't care.
You know what, Luke? I mean, care. I think once it's all done, you should binge watch it, and then you should say, "Oh yeah, that was good for the first 4 seasons."
I said to another one of my friends who really likes Game of Thrones, because I watched like the first season and a half, I think, before stopping, and also I've seen bits and pieces of the later seasons, and it just seems to me like it's Andy. Who's going to get the Iron Throne? It's like just a soap opera with dragons.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. Yeah.
I don't find soap operas entertaining, basically, anyway. So there you go.
The thing is, it's not as enjoyable if you don't watch it on your own, because nobody's there to see you masturbate.
Great. Wonderful.
Anyway, I feel like we can talk about Thanos. No. There's probably more stuff, isn't there?
The ending, yes. The ending of the movie. So this is really important, because we've just talked about the plot and everything, and I've said, oh, there's a nice bit here, nice bit of detail there. Oh, I like this scene. I like that concept. Just kind of nice compliments. But the ending, I do really want to compliment, because that was not safe. It was not your typical Marvel ending. It's, dare I say, like brave. You have just everyone dying. All the Avengers, all the heroes.
Well, I would like to point out, seeing as you've given me a perfect opportunity, none of the original Avengers die.
Yes.
Unless you count Nick Fury, but let's be honest, that's not.
Wow, racist much. Yeah. So yeah, at the end, Thanos is just staring off into the sunrise. His mission's done. The heroes have been destroyed, devastated, and it just cuts to the credits. And it just ends, and I'm sitting in there in the cinema when I watched it, and I was so happy they did that, because I was shocked. I was surprised. I was like, wow, I did not expect to be feeling this way watching fucking Avengers Infinity War, like a Marvel movie. I expected, Thanos was gonna, he was gonna win, because there's obviously Avengers Endgame coming next year. I knew that, so it's gonna end on a downer for the Avengers. But I expected like a scene at the end in which the Avengers have some hope, and like they band together and say, okay, we've got this. We're the Avengers, and it's going to end on an upbeat note. But no, it just literally cuts to the credits. I should have stood up and applauded, Michael.
I clapped exactly. When I saw Darth Vader.
I clapped when I saw the credits.
I clapped when it was over too, because it was so shit. No.
Yeah, so just massive praise for that ending. Because, like we say, it's just completely the opposite to what Marvel have done throughout their cinematic universe, and it was a great ending. Really was, fantastic. Maybe you can't get that experience that I felt if you're not in a cinema. But I don't know what do you say about
that. Well, yeah, okay. So I have some thoughts. So first of all, I definitely agree with you. It was a very crazy decision, because obviously, nobody would have seen that coming. Now, I suppose the one thing that so I'm going to be a bit of a negative Nancy for a second and point out some obvious things, which is, of course, one of the things that we look at in this show is, I guess you would say, the enduring quality of a film. And I think, to be honest, when you know how it's going to end, especially once you've seen it the first time, I mean, never mind the fact that if you haven't seen this film yet, then you already know how it's going to end. Like, everybody knows how this. I knew how this film was going to end within the first week of it coming out. So even if I would have gone to see it at the cinema, I wouldn't have seen it in the first week, so I would have known how it was going to end anyway. So I think maybe you could still kind of find it crazy if you know how it's going to end, but maybe you're not expecting. But the thing is, one of the things that we kind of like to look at how a film holds up in terms of long term. When is it a film that's worth returning back to? And of course, this film, I think that there is an element in which some of it feels sort of pointless.
We'll get into that in the conclusion.
I agree. Sorry, I agree. I agree with myself.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what I would have done, Luke. Just to one up Marvel, I'd have had Thanos snap his fingers, kill everyone, and then he would have just killed himself. And they would have been like, "Oh shit, Thanos is dead. Don't we know what we're going to do now?" And then they would have been scratching their chins, and it would cut to credits. So they'd have gone, wasn't. I mean, I wasn't expecting to just kill himself, and then just scratching their chins.
What are they going to do for the next movie then?
What they're going to do is they're going to go.
They're going to have to defeat.
They're going to keep scratching their chins and go. Loki do it? No, Loki's dead. That's going to be the film for 2 hours. No, yeah, I don't know. I tell you what. Actually, I was thinking this to myself. I was thinking it's kind of, maybe this is a bit crazy. It's a bit out there, guys. But I was thinking to myself, could they have maybe had a 2-part thing and had the second part end with Thanos winning, and then you could have an entire. Okay, here's my thoughts, Luke. Hear me out here. This is going to be crazy. I'm going to go into studio executive moment here. Have an entire arc. Maybe a 5-10 film arc where they're dealing with the fact that half the population is dead. Okay, how about that, Luke? So it's so that's how it ends. And then at the end, they obviously rectify, but there's whole arc surrounding it, and you're like, wow, they really stick this. Tell you what, Luke, wouldn't that surprise you? Wouldn't you be like, wow, I'm not doing this?
Okay, so 2 issues with that. Number 1, not practical, because the actors.
Well, of course it's not practical because you have to use CGI. You can't use practical effects, Luke.
Okay, yeah. The actors who don't want to do any more Marvel movies would have to keep doing them. So that's number 1. And number 2, you do want to watch the standalone movies in their own vacuum, and it's hard to do that when half the universe is dead, and that is because of what happened in a previous movie. So then, if you're just sitting in for a standalone movie, it's oh yeah, remember half the universe is dead. It doesn't really work. So yeah, it needs to be solved with this with the second movie.
Well, you know what, Luke? They once told that to a guy called George Lucas. They said, you can't make a film that's a rip-off of 1950s action-adventure serials set in space. And he said, sure I can. And they said, this is really horribly structured. And he said, well, edit it for me so it's good again. And then he did.
Edit it for me, wife.
Yeah, and then it was great. So that's basically it. I think that's already addressed that. So moving on.
So you didn't think the ending was good then?
Oh no, I thought the ending was good. I just I think I guess all I'm saying is it's not maximally unconventional. What you could have had is at the end.
It was the Marvel though. It was
you could have had at the end. He wills his penis to become a massive penis the size of an Eiffel Tower, and then he fucks the world for 72 hours. Do you know what that's a reference to?
Yeah, of course I know what that's a reference to.
I don't know. I feel sorry for everybody who doesn't know what that's a reference to.
Yeah, fuck them. So
I'll tell you what, Luke, you weren't expecting that, were you?
No, I wasn't, and that would have really subverted my expectations.
I think at the end he should have told Thor that his parents are nobody. He's nothing.
Yeah,
and then I think at the end he should have thrown the Infinity Gauntlet over his shoulder.
Oh god, no! Yeah, comparing it to The Last Jedi, that ending really did subvert my expectations.
Yeah, actually,
in a good way.
A lot of people have. Well, actually, no, I say a lot of people. There's a video on YouTube called "Subverting Your Expectations: The Last Jedi versus."
I know, I've seen that. I haven't watched it though.
And I watched it because I felt like it. But you know what, Luke? I put it in double speed, so I only spent half my time watching it that I would have otherwise spent. And you know what? No, it's good. It's
Star
good.
Wars do it bad. Infinity War does it goodly.
Yes. Basically, yeah, it was good. I don't want to take anything away from that.
Well, I think it was more than good, Mike. I think it was
great.
Really good. And it was one of the best endings I've ever seen in any movie, considering the context of how Marvel movies often do end.
Yeah, I could see that being a valid... I suppose. If you're just looking at the ending on its own, it was very good. And if that ending happened in, say, for example, so if I could change, basically I'm saying if I could change the things that I didn't like about this film, then the ending wouldn't be one of those things. Yeah. In fact, and indeed, I could say that if you put an ending that was this kind of I don't know what the word is, but surprising or subverting expectations EFIing onto the end of like a lot of films, and a lot of those films would be better. And in that sense, yes, well done, film. Now we can move on.
Now we can move on to Thanos, the villain.
Yeah, I want to start off with something. I want to talk about, do you know Thanos' original motivation in the comics?
Yes, I do. I remember not reading, as if I do that, watching videos on Thanos, and apparently he loved Darkseid. Or, no, that's the villain from the Marvel.
That's the villain.
He loved Death.
Yeah, he loved Death.
Yeah, Darkseid is the villain from the DC cinematic universe, not the Marvel cinematic universe. So yeah, he loved Death, and Death is like this actual living thing, and he wanted to please Death, so he wanted to kill half the universe, it's like when you go on a date and you pull out
and you pull out I never pull out when I'm on a date. That's how you turn a date into a long-term relationship.
Yeah, you
get them pregnant.
Yeah, you pull up to I should have said pull up to your house, with a car which isn't shit. I don't know, what's a good car, Michael?
Audi Camaro.
An Audi Camaro, and you're like, hey babe, hop in. That right there is what Thanos is doing by killing half the universe. Yeah,
that's true. It's like when you agree to pay for half the date, half the check.
Why is that like that?
It's just half and half. Yeah, exactly. Or even better, it's like girls love this when you kind of itemize each thing that each of you bought to show how actually she should be paying, pennies more than half of it, because you're like, actually, you got a side of chips, and therefore I think you should cover that. Girls love that.
Should go back to Thanos, Michael.
But the thing is, I want to bring this up. Okay, so actually, I found a little Easter egg, which is fitting because it is almost Easter. It might be Easter when we upload. It will be Easter Monday when we upload this.
Oh, perfect.
So there's a scene in the end of the Avengers when someone's walking around upstairs. Great. There's a scene at the end of the Avengers called an end credit scene where I don't know who it is. I think it might be. It's off camera, but I think it might be the voice of No-No's Wizard Man. And he's saying, to tamper with the Infinity Stones is incredibly dangerous. It's to court death. And Thanos smiles, like, knowingly. And of course, I was, because as I mentioned, I was rewatching all of the old end credit scenes, and I didn't pick this up because I didn't care. But in the comments, someone was like, that smile when it says to court death is possibly indicative of the fact that they were planning on doing the original motivation for Thanos originally, and that's why he smiles when he says, to tamper with the Infinity Stones is to court death, because you court someone. It's an old-fashioned word for dating. I don't know if you know that, Luke.
Yes, and I'm just thinking, there's so many memes with this movie. Imagine if he was trying to bang death, like the memes that would come out of that.
Yeah, that's true. There'd be so many memes.
What was that one? Oh, come over. I can't. I'm doing this. Death. My parents are away. Thanos. Something like that. I don't know. That's a verbal meme for you. Basically, It would have. The internet would have loved it.
Yes, it would have been just like that episode of The Simpsons where Homer kills Death.
Yeah,
it's a Treehouse of Horror episode. And now let's talk about the things I liked. Number one, I like how he doesn't kill people gleefully.
Yes.
Which is, there's two benefits of that. Number one, I guess. Well, let's go for just three. Let's say 3, whatever. Number one, it's original. He's not he's evil, but he's not evil in I love being evil kind of way. It's like an evil, I have to do this kind of way. Number 2 is that it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, I should have said 2 originally, because my number 2 one is just that it's interesting for his character, because it's suggests that he's not just one-dimensional or anything like that, which, is really what I already said in the first one. I said I had 2, and I thought I could stretch out to 3, and I've now realized I can't, but I still have my third one, which is it kind of justifies the Avengers not all just dying, because if Thanos just, was willing to kill people just very easily, then he would literally just kill all the Avengers. But so his position, if I understand Thanos correctly, his position is he needs to kill 50% of people, but he wants to do it at random.
Yes,
because he doesn't want to choose. And I assume that his logic is, well, if I kill too many people in my quest to get the Infinity Stones, then I'm kind of choosing who to kill. So he
he's
kind of just
setting the balance.
Yeah. So basically, his idea is, he'll kill people if they stand in his way like too much. If they are really standing in his way, then, or if they try and kill him, like for example, Loki tried to kill him, so he kills Loki. If they like really mess him up, then he kills him. But if he can get away with not killing them, he doesn't. And again, like I say, that's good for the reason it obviously makes him interesting, but also for the narrative convenience that it explains why we don't just have a load of dead Avengers.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about Thanos for a bit. Like, this movie really is Thanos' movie. He's a good character, first off. He's got charisma. He does seem like vaguely human as well, which is good for a giant purple alien.
More
also,
than can be said for Trump.
Oh, that's great. So I think he's a good villain, though, but just a good villain. Like, probably on the villain scale, 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I saw a video saying he was the perfect villain. I was like, get out of here. He's played by Josh Brolin, who, of course, stars in No Country for Old Men.
And Old Boy.
And Old Boy, the remake.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's about 8 out of 10. I'd say, like, Killmonger from Black Panther's 10 out of 10 villain.
Yeah.
As is the Joker from The Dark Knight.
I think we need to unpack that a bit. I think there's two things. Actually, okay, so there's one good thing I want to say about him, which I think I can pack into just throw out there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Joker from The Dark Knight, and I think there is an interesting thing about Thanos, but not that interesting, but pretty interesting. So of course, one of the reasons why the Joker is interesting is because he hasn't got an interesting motivation, the Joker, has he? But he challenges Batman, because he challenges Batman's ideals and Batman's way of thinking, and that's what makes him interesting.
Yeah.
And one of the things I liked about this film, not so much necessarily Thanos himself, but kind of related to Thanos, is that this film challenged the Avengers' unwillingness to kill in a lot of instances. There are like so many instances in this film where it's like, and there's a guy literally says, I don't know who says it, but he says like, we don't trade lives.
That was Captain America.
Yeah, so you don't trade lives. And there are several lines that are basically saying like, we don't kill people to win. We don't sacrifice lives to save lives. We just, basically, I mean, it's the trolley problem. They don't trolley they don't pull the lever. And that's fine. That's a very noble thing. But of course, this film kind of says, well, fine, but look, 50% of people are dead. And I think that's like an interesting idea to kind of explore and like show how it can be flawed. Now I'm going to walk back that criticism a bit by saying that obviously what works with the Joker is that the Joker revels in challenging Batman, and the Joker kind of really twists the knife in a lot of ways. And of course, in this, Thanos is kind of just unwittingly doing this. Like, Thanos isn't actively trying to challenge their ideals in this regard. He's just happens to cause it to happen due to the way the narrative plays out. So that's my kind of, so my positive is it's interesting that the film kind of brings out those ideas about the Avengers, but then like walk back of that positive. It's not as if Thanos is actively doing it.
Yeah, I think the difference is between the Joker and Thanos, and is why he's only an 8 out of 10 villain. Is because Thanos doesn't have like an ideology. He's just a psychopath. Like, there's no like ideology which says you must kill half the people on Earth. Like, there's nothing like that. For the Joker, it's nihilism. He just wants chaos. So there isn't something that there's not an ideology that Thanos subscribes to. There's no politics behind it. And again, that's good for Marvel because they don't want to stray into that area. They've only done it once, obviously, with Killmonger in Black Panther. But yeah, I mean, that's the difference. That's what stops him from being a top tier villain. He's just a psychopath, and he wants to kill half the universe, which is good because he just doesn't want to take over the universe. He's got a very specific goal. He wants to kill half the universe, and then he's done. Like, that is so much better than, I want to be all powerful and destroy the universe and all that bullshit. But yeah, I do love the line, like, when he's talking, I can't remember who he's talking to. I think he's talking to Gamora, and he says, So Gamora says, you can't possibly know that in terms of, is it right to kill half the population? Because they were talking about her home planet, and Thanos is like, I did it, and to save half the population. Now look at your world; the children have full bellies and all that. And Gamora's like, you can't possibly know that. And then Thanos says, I'm the only one who knows that, which is like the perfect encapsulation of like a psychopath, like their mindset. It's only me. I'm the only one who can do this and knows that. So that is a really good line, and I thought that's the best. That's the line that sums up his character the best. So yeah, he is a really, I'll have to say he's a really good villain. Maybe he's a really good villain because also he's complex. He's got some emotional stuff going on as well. So maybe I could bump him up to a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not at the level of the greatest villains of all time, just because he doesn't represent an ideology, which I think is what makes villains like Killmonger and the Joker. That's what makes them interesting. He just wants to kill half the world, which is, again, it's not the least interesting thing ever, but yeah, there's no books, there's no like theories in academia about this particular thing that he's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I have like a few things to say. So first of all, I think the thing is, you could say he does have an ideology, and it's like he talks about it being perfectly balanced. But I think the thing is it's kind of incoherent because, for example, if you like,
what is balance though as an ideology?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. Like if you killed 50% of the population when human beings, were only like there were only 10,000 human beings, back in the Ice Age, then that wouldn't help anything. That would just be screwing everything over. So it's like, even if like it doesn't make any sense. The idea of like killing off 50% of people in all like the problem with balance is it assumes that balance is achieved by limiting everything by 50%, which just kind of assumes that we're automatically double what is balance. Doesn't make any sense. Anyway,
maybe you could say it is an ideology, but if you treat it as an ideology, it's just incredibly stupid.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and I kind of wanted to unpack a bit about how stupid it is. I'll say a positive thing because, it's a compliment sandwich, I guess. No, well, it's the opposite to a compliment sandwich. It's an insult sandwich because I'm saying two bad things and then one good thing. I kind of liked how Thanos had like an end goal. Like a lot of and again, you could kind of turn this into criticism that, like, obviously the Joker, one of the things he says is very interesting. He says, like, I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. Basically saying, like, his entire raison d'etre is to be a villain. And if he ever achieved what he wanted, that concept doesn't even apply. With Thanos, it's like, one kind of wonders, and that's the thing, I mean, I am interested in finding out what happens in Endgame because, and you know how I was like, I said, Thanos should just kill himself at the end of this film. The reason why I was thinking that is because Thanos has like achieved his goal, and in that sense, you kind of think like, I mean, the only thing he can do now, like presumably he's not going to do if he was not prompted at this point, he wouldn't do anything else evil. So he's done that, which is kind of an interesting idea, I think.
Also, Michael, also I would like it if in the next movie he was unhappy, he was depressed, because he's had this goal that all of his life he's been so focused, so determined.
He's going to have a midlife crisis.
No, that's the thing. He's accomplished his goal, and he can't do anything more. So he's like, well, now what? And the only purpose in his life has now gone because it's been achieved. He talks throughout the movie like how he's sacrificing everything for this one thing. He cares about it so much more than anything else, and now it's done. It'd be really cool in the next movie if he was somehow unhappy or depressed. It just adds to his character.
Or maybe they'll go the other way and it'll be like he becomes kind of so, I don't know, like he realizes he was really just in it for the killing. Or maybe he's just he's feels like he doesn't have a purpose. So he's like, well, I guess I'll just have to kill off another 50% of people. That's what I do if I were him. Once you killed off 50% of people, like, whew, that was a nice one. Maybe it's addictive. Maybe killing off 50% of the population is very addictive.
If they go one of those two ways, that'd be good, instead of him just going like, oh no, don't do that. Don't reverse what I did. Like if he actually has some feelings after, he's not happy either in that he's just depressed, or he's not happy and he doesn't think he's done enough and he wants to do more.
Yeah. I had one. I kind of should have said this earlier, but while you were talking about this, but you mentioned how he kind of talks about how he did his whole plan on a planet and everything's perfect now. I wish they would have shown like the effects of his plan.
Maybe that's what they'll do in the next movie.
That's the thing, because like we're told, like, and that's the kind of bizarre thing about this film in a way. Like the film almost acts as if Thanos is right, because he says, for example, the place that he did the whole thing to is now really, really lovely and wonderful, and we don't see any evidence to contradict that. And then, of course, in the second bit, he says that Titan was getting too big and that he wanted to kill off 50% of the population and he didn't, and that caused the planet to collapse.
Well, again, that's just him saying
stuff. So it's kind of interesting. I'll be interested to see whether or not they kind of show that was a contradiction. In the context of this film, though, it's like a tacit approval of Thanos' ideas. And I think this is when we should mention the fact, this is the last thing I have to say about Thanos, but you can go crazy after this if you like, unless you have nothing else to say, which is Thanos' motivation is an idea that, like, people have brought up before, like the idea of overpopulation being a problem. there's a really good TV show. I might have mentioned it before, called Zootopia, called Utopia, which is basically about a secret society that is they want to create a vaccine that will cause, I think it's 90% of the Earth's population to become infertile. And the logic is because basically, and it's actually one of the reasons it's such an interesting TV show is because the people doing it are like not evil, and that's why, for example, they don't just want to kill off 90% of the population. Now, like, we want to make it so 90% of the population can't have children because we think that. So basically, they're radical anti-natalists, and that's like a really good TV show, and it's generally quite critically acclaimed. So watch it if you like, Luke. But
no, I've heard of it. Yeah, there's a guy with a bright suit.
Yes. And that kind of idea is spread, and of course the fundamental thing that needs to be addressed. So this idea has been explored of like limiting the world's population. Of course, most evidence suggests it doesn't work, because there was a guy called Thomas Malthus, who in the Victorian times, when the population, I think it was when the population like was around 1 billion, in Victorian times, and he said, I guess they kind of had a rough approximation of how big the population was, which they kind of probably could have at that point, had a rough approximation, and it was like, well, we've got 1 billion people. We've never had this many before because the population was spiking up. Saying, we're probably going to die when we have 2 billion people. And do you know what happened with Thomas Malthus's prediction?
What happened, Michael?
It was wrong. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you have to realize, like, obviously, in theory, it makes sense because in theory, the amount in principle, there is a limited amount of resources and there's a potentially infinite amount of people, and therefore you'd have a problem. However, having said that, every single time that anybody has ever predicted that, we're not going to be able to sustain the number of people, the forthcoming number of people, they've always been proved wrong. So,
I do wonder about China's one-child policy, which I think I learned about it in, year 11 in geography. And at the time, it was still in place. I think they've changed a bit now.
Yeah, I think they've relaxed it.
Yeah, they've relaxed it. But at the time, it was still in place. And they said it was introduced, I think, in the 70s. And up until the 2012, I think it had prevented 400 million births in China. So obviously they have a population of 1.3 billion. That's just under a third of their population. So they would have had a 33% increase in population if the one-child policy hadn't taken effect. And you do wonder, like, would China be experiencing famines if that many people were there, or would they have found a way?
Yeah, it's an interesting idea.
It would have been a gradual thing, obviously. It wouldn't have been 400 million people at once. It would have been a gradual thing. So I don't know. It's interesting, though.
Yes,
People smarter than me know about that stuff. Basically.
Yes, so it seems in general that I guess the only problem is it is quite a... Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the one good thing is that at least he's not a eugenicist. So well done him, I guess. The one final thing I wanted to say, let's see if I can remember what it was. Thanos is killing half the people, and you know what? I'm not going to be able to remember what it was. You talk for a bit, and I'll see if I can remember what it is. But
that's the thing. I think I'm done with Thanos. Basically, I mean, he's really good, solid villain. Like we said, 9 out of 10. The ideology isn't really an ideology. That's what.
Oh no, I remember what it was. Okay, I remember why. It's a really obvious thing. Everybody says it. It just needs to be said, just because it's like. I mean, there's an explanation for it. If he can manipulate reality, he could just create infinite future.
Oh yeah. No, I was not even going to bring that up.
I know. Yeah, I was not going to bring it up.
Yeah. Well, he's mad. He's psychotic. He's mental. That can be explained away.
Yes. Yeah. That's why I know. I think it needs to be brought up just because it's a very obvious thing, and at the same time, there is a very clear explanation, which is that he's crazy and he's dumb.
Actually, one more thing on Thanos: is he a daddy? Is he thick?
I've always thought Josh Brolin was a bit of a daddy. And of course, unlike Old Boy, when Josh Brolin is my daddy, he won't have sex with me.
Wow.
Okay,
but Thanos specifically, this big purple alien monster.
Yeah.
Is he thick?
I'm remembering that thing of like the Ant-Man going in Thanos' butt.
Hey, maybe it happens.
No.
I thought you were going to say the Incredibles thing. Why Elastigirl is thick, and that's a good thing. That's great.
Thanos is thick. I guess it is a good thing that Thanos is so thick, because I think it actually, you know what? I don't think there are very many realistic standards for men we've got Chris Evans, that's very unrealistic. But you know what? Real superheroes love curves. Only dogs go for bones.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. So That's the thing. That's one of the things that I remember. I was talking about memes with him before. If they did go with that death storyline, and there was quite a few memes about Thanos afterwards, like, is he a thick daddy and all that, because that's what the internet does. So I just thought I'd bring it up because why not?
Yeah,
why not? Bit of fun.
Yes.
What we get on to next then, Michael?
I think we need to talk about the Infinity Stones, and I kind of, you know what, I need to talk.
I got nothing to say about this.
Okay, so I had one thing to say about Thanos relating to the Infinity Stones, which is let's see if I can make this sentence. Okay, the idea of somebody being in theory omnipotent, which is what. Okay, so the problem is you've got this whole thing with like not what's true in comic books doesn't always reflect what's true in films. Like for example. Superman in the comic books is different from Superman in the films and things like that in terms of power levels. So they do have different levels of power because of different things the filmmakers want. In theory, in the comic books, the Infinity Stones make you pretty much omnipotent. So, for example, you can just decide you want to know something and immediately know it. Or literally, I mean, you see like all the different things you can do, and obviously you can just kill everyone instantly. And it's kind of like a crazy narrative device, which I just think needs to be appreciated for just how mental it is that he can literally change reality. Like the scene where he just takes them out in the collector place is just like such a bizarre idea of like what it would be like to be infinite, because he literally turns somebody into cubes and turns somebody else into a little stringy piece of tagliatelle. And you know, I think that's like. And also, actually, I want to say this. I think props on how they like showed the death. I think that idea of like somebody just disintegrating into cubes is kind of become like kind of an iconic image, because it's like, you know, I think that's kind of iconic. The idea of somebody is turning into cubes from this film is like a way to just show how infinitely powerful it is. And the other thing
what do you mean by cubes?
Well, like when they kind of disintegrate to dust is what I mean.
Yeah, dust. Yeah, because I was thinking cubes thing earlier with
yeah,
Drax.
sorry, yeah. You know what I meant. Yeah, the thing is, I used the cubes to refer to both things because I was referring to Drax initially, and I was kind of had cubes in my head. So anyway,
no, you're right. It is iconic. The dust thing is iconic. Yeah.
And then also I liked how he was fighting the Avengers, like at the end when he was just about to become all powerful, and you could kind of like see it was like a completely almost surreal action scene, and it was literally just, you know, at one point he just causes the Hulk to go straight through him and things like that. Which was
that was very good. He was just tossing them aside, just showing how strong he was, showing again how scary he is as a villain.
But I think one of the questions, I mean, it also makes the film just like you're interested in the end game because you're like, how are they going to deal with this? The only thing is, I'm cautiously pessimistic. There's a cynical part of me that tells me that however they're going to defeat this, there must be a layer of bullshit to it, because like I would be, I'm just gonna say this now, you know, this is kind of a preemptive review for Endgame in a way, but I'm just saying like I would be very surprised and very impressed if they're able to come up with a satisfying way of defeating the Infinity Stones. Because it seems like right now Thanos, it seems like he controls basically the whole thing of the universe, like, and you'd think that he can just think to himself, what are the Avengers planning right now, and just know instantly that, because he controls, you know, all the knowledge in the universe, and then he could just say, right, just delete them. So it'd be interesting. And one of the things that I was kind of thinking in that regard is, I think it does help that his motivation is like not necessarily to be just, because if this fell into the hands of like a pure psychopath in the sense of like just wanting to murder people, then it would be a very, very, you know, I mean, that doesn't really work because it would
boring.
Just be, yeah, exactly. Having said that, I do wonder if they could have picked a more interesting, like motivation, because with this power to be able to change everything, I think, you know, there's so much you can do with that. And in a way, I kind of feel like it would make more sense if instead of having like the Infinity Stones for this, they would have just had like something that gave you control over all life. And then that would be like better, because the idea, you know, if I was going to have somebody control the Infinity Stones, I want them to have like some kind of really interesting idea of what they want the world to be like. Like I was thinking to myself, if it would be interesting if there was like a villain whose their main motive was just to like be entertained, like kind of like the Joker style. So they just did things almost, I guess like a trickster god. So I guess like Loki, but it doesn't matter. I was just thinking to myself that, you know, like I feel like it's such an interesting idea, and it's like potentially a limitless potential with your villain, and they were just like, oh, just have them kill 50% of people, which again is like an idea it's been done before. People being concerned about overpopulation, whatever. And yeah, oh, actually, no, other thing. I wish So this is a very big thing, and I've been wanting to say this. Like, it's very relevant to my entire opinion of this film. This whole time you've been saying, they had to have it be fast paced, blah 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 blah. I honestly wish they'd done a Voldemort thing with this, and I think you know what I mean by that, Luke. So I don't even need to explain it.
No, I don't actually. Tell me.
Okay, so during the Harry Potter films, I mean, as you know, if you've seen my 4 Harry Potter films that I've given up on because I'll come back to it later. One of my main theses is that a good film is a film that has, or especially a good film in the context of the Harry Potter films, a film that has a good internal plot, but also contributes to this wide overarching narrative. And of course, what you basically have in Harry Potter is Voldemort. He's very much, he's actually doing things like meaningful in the previous films, which sets up a huge conflict. And I was thinking to myself, like Thanos, because I was racking my head thinking to myself, like, how much have they shown Thanos in these last few films? And I looked up on the older YouTube, I looked up every scene with Thanos before Infinity War. And I clicked on it and I watched it and I thought to myself, no, that can't be it. So I clicked back and I was like looking for, another one. And I found one which had like one extra scene in it. But ultimately, there isn't that much. And like everyone's kind of going crazy like that. Oh yeah, isn't it great that he's been there since Avengers, the Avengers end credits, or it's called end. Is it called the end credit scene?
Yeah, I think it's.
He's been there since the Avengers end credit scene. And yet, as we've established, it seems based on that court death line that he didn't even know his motivation. And the problem is, like, I almost feel like they needed to make it so what Thanos was and what he was planning on doing was known in advance, so there was slightly more hype for it rather than just being like, oh, that purple guy is going to suddenly start doing things and we're going to learn everything about him now. And the most fundamental thing, and this is why I relate it to the Infinity Stones, is that, of course, in this film, it's literally just, first of all, he, like we've already said, just decides to get the Infinity Stones all of a sudden. And number 2, it kind of just makes the film feel ridiculously fast-paced because, he's doing all these things. I think, like, you had Guardians of the Galaxy. Why couldn't you have had, like, some kind of plot with Thanos getting one of the Infinity Stones in Guardians of the Galaxy? You've already had that stuff with the Tesseract knocking around.
Yeah, they didn't plan it that much.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. And I don't know, yeah, I think they could have, it would have been a bit better rather than having...
yeah, I mean, look, what they have achieved over this last decade, and even with Infinity War, is just so impressive. Like, it works. It's coherent. I mean, I'm not going to, have a go at them for not planning stuff to the, 100th degree.
You know what, Luke? I don't accept excuses. I want results. And I think that they should have had...
They've done a very good job.
That very first scene with Iron Man, they should have had Thanos show up and go, hey, Mr. Terrorist Man, I believe that you can help me get the Time Stone from Doctor Strange to be played by Benedict Cumberbatch in 8 years. And anyway, we'll move on to humour.
Yes, humour. Oh, just one thing on the Infinity Stones, actually, while you were talking, I had a thought. Like, people said, oh, he's got the Infinity Stones in a week, basically. He just collected them all quite easily after not doing it for the previous, 10 years. But I'm like, well, I think once you get 1, it's then easy to get 2, and then you can get 3. Because,
it's like the singularity.
Stones, yeah, it's like a snowball effect. Like, as soon as you get on the ladder, then every rung up becomes easier because you're more powerful. So I'm fine with that, really.
It's like capitalism.
Yes. Okay. So, humour. Humour was okay.
Yes.
I said the scenes with Thor and Rocket the Raccoon with Guardians of the Galaxy, those were the best moments.
I wanted to add something in that vein, which I was thinking about as you were writing it, and I came down and stealthily kind of written down as a note. I think one of the reasons that works is because it's before the film gets, too serious. I know it's already pretty serious because you have, Thor's, all these people die with the Thor thing, but it's kind of, not at the point where everything feels, ridiculously hopeless.
Yes.
Whereas I think... So, and it wasn't a very serious scene. It kind of worked out well. When the humor showed up in that final battle at Wakanda, and they were making all these little jokes, and I was like, stop. I didn't laugh. I'll tell you my favorite. Guess what my favorite joke was, Luke?
What are those? No, that's from Black Panther.
No. To be fair, it didn't make me laugh anything as much the second time I watched it. It was when Drax says, "I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?"
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that you'd laugh at.
Yeah, no, it was hilarious. But I do agree with you that the scene that you really liked was very good. And partially, I was going to say partially, definitely because of the fact that it was a point where, you can have the humor. It wasn't too, especially, and I think the fact that, for example, the Guardians characters, they didn't know how serious it was. Because for them, it's I think that's kind of the problem, because from the Guardians' perspective, even if not from the audience perspective, Thor is some random guy who just landed on their windscreen, and now he's in there talking like some kind of big, muscly, Australian dude putting on a British accent, and they're like, you know, they're going to joke about it. But then you've got like Black Panther, who's Black Widow, who's like knows that the entire universe could just die because this megalomaniac is going to become in control of like every facet of the universe, and she's like, took you long enough, how have you been doing, come on, I don't know, I can't remember a single line she says, but whatever she says, just know that it's not very funny.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah, certainly the humor could have been phased out a bit more as they got towards the end of the movie when things became more serious. But, you know, Marvel's going to Marvel. Again, it just shows why that ending was so good, because it's just completely unexpected. It's just like, how many Marvel tropes were in this movie, like loads, and then just the ending was just completely not like the rest of the movie. So yeah, that is, again, the humor highlights my love for the ending even more, Michael. That's all I'll say. Also, now, what do you think?
I think it would have been funnier if when Iron Man realized he held Tom Holland, Peter Parker, in his hands as he drifted away, terrified of the ensuing void, he looked up and said, "Squidward." cut to credits.
Oh my god.
No, I've got. I just want to say, actually, the humor in many ways for me encapsulated my experience with the film, which was like, sometimes I loved it and found it fantastic, and other times I found it to be kind of tedious. And that's basically how I felt about like the rest of the film. So sometimes with the humor, I was like, and that's sometimes how I was with this film. I was like, but ultimately, yeah. And although actually, to be honest with the humor, I said with the film that the good outweighs the bad, and I agree with that. With the humor, the good doesn't outweigh the bad. Right. So just, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I think we should talk about the audience response and impact in pop culture now, Michael.
Yes.
So the ending of the film sparked various internet meme reactions, particularly one related to Spider-Man, saying he does not feel so good as he disintegrates, which was applied to other aspects of pop culture. Yeah, so that became a famous meme.
Sorry, Luke, it's pronounced meme.
Oh, meme, I'm sorry. The ending also spawned the creation of the Reddit subreddit Thanos Did Nothing Wrong, which both the Russo brothers joined. I do think that, in just talking about this movie and its impact on pop culture, I think that because there's so many ways now, you can watch different types of content, in movies, TV, internet, all that shit. More and more, like, our populations, I guess, aren't experiencing cultural events like they did before, like 15 years ago, like before the internet really took off. But I think Infinity War is one of those rare times where it was like a cultural event, like an average person could understand references about Infinity War. And I think this decade, that can only be said of Game of Thrones as well. I think Game of Thrones and Infinity War's it. Just because they're becoming rarer and rarer. Before that, I think the previous example would have been like Harry Potter. I don't know, maybe you think differently. But I'm just thinking of like stuff like this, which has just been so, because Star Wars obviously would be the counter, but I don't think Star Wars
prequel memes. The prequel meme subreddit, Luke. Have you ever thought about the prequel meme subreddit or the sequel meme subreddit, which has an ongoing conflict with the prequel meme subreddit?
No.
Have you? What about
just generally? Do you think like Star Wars hasn't reached the level, or could be described as a cultural event? Because I don't think it is. Like, we're gonna forget about these sequels like in 10 years' time. They're gonna be forgettable. There's no references like to Rey or Finn.
What about Snoke being thick? No, it's not Snoke. Sorry, Kylo being thick when he's.
That was like for a month, and then that was it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think, to be honest, like the Phantom Menace is pretty. I mean, we did reference the Phantom Menace in this. So
yeah, I'm talking about this last decade, though.
Okay. Oh, in this last decade. Oh, what about? Oh, sorry. Okay, got you. That makes sense. So I got you. No, I don't know. The thing is, I think The Last Jedi maybe. No. I'm
talking about like references, like you can make.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about, it's fun to reference like the subverted expectations thing. That's like the main example. That's kind of like a meta reference. Yeah. It's like a reference to the idea of it.
I think, like, for example, LeBron James, when he's playing basketball, like, I know last year there was loads of references when he joined the Lakers, like, oh, he's got the Infinity Gauntlet. I don't know. Like, there was just loads of references about Thanos and the Infinity Stones and all that. And I'm like, what could be a similar thing? Saying, like, a sportsman is, oh, he's like Thanos. He's just killing everybody. No one would say, like, if you're a commentator in a sport, oh, he's like fucking, I don't know, Rey. She's a quick learner. I don't know, like that just wouldn't happen.
I agree. Yeah. I think
Avengers has impacted the culture more than Last Jedi or Force Awakens, and I can say that only Game of Thrones, I think, can match it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay, we are agreed then. So conclusions then, Michael. I think it's time for that.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first because I just talked through it?
Yeah, why not? Okay. So, what did I say about this film, Luke?
Didn't know. What did you?
I'll tell you what I said. I said this film was pretty good. The good outweighed the bad. But in general, I think like the essence of this film is a lot more enjoyable than the actual experience of watching it. Like the idea of this film and like just knowing about this film and the fact this film exists and like I guess like this film as a culmination of this massive cinematic event that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe is all very good. Ultimately, when you're watching this film, especially knowing how it ends, it's going to feel a bit well, honestly, I found it boring at some points, especially on the second watch. I don't know if like maybe later on I'll come back. I could easily see myself consistently not wanting to watch this entire film because there's like so much happening. It's so dense, and every single dense thing is leading up to this one thing, which is fundamentally a bit hard to take seriously because, especially also because that it's going to be. First of all, that everything they're doing right now in this film is pointless because at the end of it, everyone's going to die. And on top of that, there's the idea in the back of your head that that actually none of the people who are dead are actually going to stay dead. And probably the only real interesting thing is the fact that that a lot of the people who are alive are probably going to die. So if anything, this film's a bizarre thing where you're like, oh well, I'm interested in Iron Man's death, even though you haven't seen Iron Man die. Whereas as much as Peter Parker's death is very sad, it's not permanent because he's literally scheduled to be in another film. And you can't really ignore that when you're watching this film. I think, so this film, ultimately, it's a big surprise, but it's just hard to actually be invested in it once you know what that surprise is. The other thing is, and I've been saving this because I thought it was something which I just want to bring up. When I was talking about Captain America, I was talking about how one of the things I like in my superhero films is like a very clear connection between the superheroes and their day-to-day lives. One of the problems with this film is it's just full throttle superhero. No, moments of them just living their lives apart from at the very, very beginning. And by the end of it, it all feels like a distant memory, which I think is kind of unfortunate. There's, as I said, the film really doesn't stop to kind of relax for a minute. And but having said all of that, it's still good. I have to kind of clarify all of the bad things because the essence is that the film is pretty good. It's enjoyable. And the idea of it's very nice. I think I am very, very happy putting it exactly where I'm going to put it, which is beneath A Nightmare Before Christmas. And that sounds weird, I guess. A Nightmare Before Christmas I just liked because it was, artistic and things like that. It's actually just above Call Me By Your Name, which, tell you what, Call Me By Your Name, there's a film. But the thing is, the problem is we've got, it's hard to justify because, of course, it's in between a weird animated film by Tim Burton. It's not by Tim Burton, is it? But, it's basically by Tim Burton. And a weird, slightly dull coming-of-age drama about a gay guy. So it's hard to kind of place it in. I'll tell you what, I'll actually go beside it. So I've got Creed above it. I thought Creed was good. It's a nice hero's journey. It's got The Darkest Hour below it. So, I don't know, that gives you an idea. But all in all, it's good. Yeah, it's just, isn't that, wouldn't you agree, Luke?
Yeah, I guess I'd agree. By the way, that photo you sent me of Thanos in the truck, I'll tell you what I was going to do. I was going to send you that as the link to the thumbnail for this video. My conclusion to Avengers Infinity War. Okay, so this movie is impressive. It's an achievement. Just to get this to work, to get like 20 characters working, and for it not to be a colossal fuck up, you have to just, say, wow, that was a really good job. Well done, Marvel. That was, how many people would have thought like 10 years ago getting 20 superheroes into a movie with a kind of a complex villain as well, getting all that to work, and would they be able to pull it off? And they did pull it off. It was a impressive achievement. It was a competent movie. But I think that is as high a praise as I can give it in terms of rewatchability, because although it's an impressive achievement, I'm not sure I want to watch it again. The plot is basic. there's not really anything exciting about it. Just a bunch of people trying to get to places to stop Thanos. There's a couple of good action scenes, but I don't really have a desire to rewatch it. Really, it's not like a journey. This movie, like other superhero movies, and I guess that has to happen if you're trying to fit all this shit into one movie. And also, what also hurts the rewatchability, I guess, is the ending is depressing. And you said obviously the fast pace, that again, there's not many character moments. Like the Thor one is one of the only ones which he's just talking about losing his parents and his brother and his sister, and he's like, that's the only moment of really a character talking about themselves. And a good moment with Spider-Man at the end of the movie as well, and Gamora actually. So those are the three best emotional moments. So when Gamora dies as well, the ending is surprising, but Thanos is a good villain. Like we said, 9 out of 10 or maybe 8 out of 10, depending on how you're feeling. He's got a nice clear motivation, doesn't want to just destroy the world. He's a psychopath. Again, doesn't have an ideology, so that just doesn't make him the greatest villain ever, but he's still very good, and it is his movie, as we said. So, I am going to give this, Michael, a 7.5 out of 10. I think that's the right thing to do, because, like I said, it's impressive, but I'm not sure it's that great a movie, and I don't want to watch it again. Really, like there's nothing special apart from obviously the amount of superheroes in this. There's nothing like special about it. There's not like a thing like a plot line or a scene or a twist that takes your breath away, is there? It's competent. It's a really competent movie, good progression of events, like obviously good villain, a brave ending, which I have to give props to. Although it's depressing, it was very brave, which I appreciated when I was in the cinema at the time, but again, rewatching, maybe not the best. Couple of emotional moments, really excited, but I don't know if I'd really want to watch it again. I don't think there's ever been a movie like this before.
I agree actually. The kind of disconnect between how kind of big it feels and impactful it feels, and how it kind of feels when actually watching it.
It's like you had to watch it, you had to see it. But I don't know if I'd want to watch it again. Like, it's just not that enjoyable.
Yeah.
And maybe Endgame will be different, I don't know. Actually, talking of Endgame, what's your prediction for it? Rotten Tomatoes, give me a score.
I'm gonna go mid-80s. I think I feel kind of pessimistic, but I'm gonna go mid-80s.
Well, give me a specific number.
80. I'll just be lame and go for 85.
Well, that was what Infinity War was.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah,
85. Yeah, so you're going for the exact same.
Maybe I feel like it might be lower now, but I'll just let you go lower if you like.
Okay, so the thing is, this is funny. I was going to go for 83. So if it's lower, I win. But 83 is it's close to yours, unless it's 84, obviously. It's I think generally it'll be about the same. Probably not as good because, like you said, I struggle to see how they are going to defeat Thanos when he's literally the most powerful being on Earth without some bit of bullshit, which is going to make it not that enjoyable. And also, you're going to have all the Marvel superheroes coming back. It's just going to be the most Marvel thing ever. They kill everyone off and they bring everyone back. Like the great moment of the last movie, Undercut. And like you say, it has to happen. Like there's Spider-Man Far From Home is coming out in like a couple of months' time after Infinity War. And it's the same for Guardians of the Galaxy. There's one coming out next year, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So that kind of undercuts the ending as well. But 83% for me, 85% for you. Let's see. Yeah. And also another prediction, Michael. This is something which I think will interest you. Is this going to become the highest grossing movie of all time, Avengers Endgame? The highest grossing movie so far is Avatar, 2.7 billion. Avengers Infinity War got 2 billion. This could break the record. It could
I'm going to say yes. Why not? What the heck?
I say this because looking at the early reports, there's been I think 3 times the amount of activity for buying tickets compared to Infinity War. Like in China, it sold more tickets in an hour than it did in 24 hours. That was Endgame. Sold more tickets in an hour than Infinity War.
Yeah. Okay, I think so. Yeah.
This could break records. This could be the highest grossing movie of all time we're about to witness. So that's exciting. That's it then. Avengers Infinity War. We've spent quite a long time on this, but I guess you kind of have to.
Infinite amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. Infinite. What have we got next week, Michael? What are we doing next week?
We're doing Mean Girls.
Mean Girls, yes.
Which I'm hyped.
Anyway.
But just remember, On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
Yeah, I'll remember that. Yeah, I'll make sure I wear pink next Wednesday.
Yeah, even though we're not going to record it on a Wednesday. That's annoying, isn't it?
Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thank you for listening to our review of Avengers Infinity War because of Avengers Endgame. That's it for another year of Marvel. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
There we go.